Thank you. Minister, you're very welcome into the House again. As I read through this bill, I was reminded of Senator McDowell's Children's Amendment Bill to 2020, which passed this House in April. That was a targeted piece of legislation which was urgently drafted to remedy an obviously unintended legal situation. There was a universally recognised need for the bill from the public. Such does not seem to be the case with this bill. The calls for protest prohibition zones, which let's call a spade is what they are, do not appear to be grassroots, instead coming almost exclusively from special interest and politically advocacy groups. Indeed, the bill itself was gifted to Senator Gavin by a faceless campaign group, Together for Safety. As legislators, we should be extra vigilant when it comes to outsourcing our constitutional duties to pop-up activists. While of course people should be able to visit healthcare buildings without harassment, the need for this bill is certainly subject to scrutiny. The Department of Health has stated that protests outside healthcare facilities are limited, and that where problems do arise, there is existing public order legislation in place to protect people accessing services, staff and local residents. Indeed, the Garda Commissioner has said the same in a letter to the then Minister for Health, Simon Harris. He outlined that the introduction of protest prohibition zoned legislation would be redundant because of the existence of current laws and the fact that no instance of criminality had been reported or observed. If the situation around access to healthcare facilities was akin to what we see sometimes from the United States, for example, with large-scale, organised, high-energy and confrontational protests, that would be handled using the public order legislation that we have. The fact that this doesn't occur demonstrates that what this bill seeks to ban is small, peaceful groupings of individuals who gather, be it to discuss alternatives to abortion with women, who may be open to such, or simply to engage in quiet prayer, as is their right. The fact that the bill explicitly mentions prayer as a prohibited action, section 3(2)(f), is astounding. It might be the first time that a bill has sought to criminalise the act of praying. And this bill, introduced by Sinn Féin, who last week sang the praises of Kevin Barry, a man who was executed with his rosary beads in his pocket. There is more than a whiff of anti-Christian sentiment. Sorry, Senator, I didn't interrupt you. Sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't. Sorry, where is free speech? If I cannot deliver my speech,
Senator Keogan,
Chair,
to continue.
Thank you. Sorry. There's more than a whiff of anti-Christian sentiment about it, and I wonder if the proponents of this bill would be so quick to encroach upon the faith practices of other major world religions. The right to protest and assembly cannot be limited to what you want. The law must treat all equally. The exemption for industrial action in this bill makes a farce of it. Are you saying that posters extolling the value of dignity of all human life are to be made illegal, yet placards, soapboxes and megaphones deployed in the same spot are to be celebrated if they're talking about wages, pensions or holidays? When these zones were being discussed in this House earlier this month, it was said, I think by the Deputy Leader, that there is a very delicate balancing act between balancing free speech and the freedom to demonstrate peacefully, and that we need to be very careful on that front. It is perhaps the fundamental purpose of the law to balance the rights of citizens where they come into conflict. And on that front, this bill utterly fails. It perhaps even demonstrates that the drafters of this bill, whomever they may be, have no desire to recognise the rights of those with whom they disagree. It is a dangerous voice indeed, which tells us to use our power to restrict the rights and freedoms of our opponents, and it leads down an entirely anti-democratic road. It's certainly not a voice I expected to hear in this House, and I will of course be voting against this bill, and I implore all my colleagues who recognise and respect the right of people to voice their opinions in a free society without fear or persecution to do the same. Thank you.